For a long time in the 18th century, a ferocious, wolf-like beast reportedly roamed the French countryside, mauling nearly 300 villagers, most of them were women and children. Local newspapers seized on the story and published terrifying accounts, dubbing the creature the Beast of Gévaudan. The first victim was a 14-year-old shepherdess named Jeanne Boulet, who in 1764 was discovered with her throat ripped out. A 15-year-old was found dead a month later. She managed to describe her attacker as a horrible beast before succumbing to her wounds. More than 100 people had their chests or throats ripped out, as news of the beast made international headlines. The corpses showed clear signs that something with sharp claws and teeth was responsible. While the press described a wolf-like animal with russet and black fur, a wide chest, large mouth, and very sharp teeth, it didn't take long for infantry leader Jean-Baptiste Demel to organize a 30,000 volunteer hunting party to find and kill the beast. According to Smithsonian, they offered a reward equivalent to a year's salary for ending the ghoulish creature's life. When that didn't work, King Louis XV sent his own bodyguard, François Antoine, down south to get the job done. In September 1765, Antoine and his team finally killed a large wolf. They returned to Versailles and received their reward from Louis XV. And the attacks on Gévaudan ceased entirely, but only for a couple months. With every subsequent attack, the animal's description became more fantastical. Some accounts described it as a supernatural being that walked on its hind legs. Others said it was more like a werewolf, part man. Fed up with losing his loved ones amid a near-constant state of terror, one local farmer took matters into his own hands. As the story goes, Jean Chastel wandered into the mountains, armed with a gun and a few silver bullets. He sat down and read the Bible, hoping that making himself an easy target would lure the beast from its lair. It worked. Soon enough, the beast appeared, Chastel shot it, and he brought it to the king. Some accounts claimed the wolf's stomach was opened up and had human remains tumbling out. Historians have long debated what actually occurred at Gévaudan. Some argue it was merely mass hysteria and a pack of wild wolves that did the killing, while others claimed it was a lone, rabid wolf or an escaped lion. Nonetheless, the legend inspired Robert Louis Stevenson's 1879 book Travels with a Donkey in the Cevennes and modern productions, like Christophe Gan's 2002 horror film Brotherhood of the Wolf. Robert the Doll was unleashed in 1904 by the Steiff Company. The German toy manufacturer claimed Robert was never intended as a consumer product, but rather as a mannequin for window displays. He quickly became far more than that, a doll that haunted whoever dared to cross him. Robert somehow ended up in the hands of a boy named Robert Eugene Otto, Gene for short, who linked in the Key West in Florida. Some say a Bahamian maid of Jean's family imbibed the doll with voodoo magic and gifted it to Jean as retribution for the family's trespasses. Others believe Jean's grandfather bought the doll in Germany and gave it to his grandson as a present. Regardless, the unsettling toy has been described as supernatural by many. It has purportedly giggled, moved to different rooms on its own, and punished people who treated it badly. Jean was overjoyed at his new gift, took it everywhere, and even dressed the black-eyed doll in a sailor suit he wore as a baby. What people really remember is what they would probably term as an unhealthy relationship with the doll, said Robert the Doll expert Corey Convertito, curator of the museum where Robert now dwells. He brought it everywhere, he talked about it in first person as if he weren't a doll, he was Robert. As in he is a live entity. Otto Family Collection, Florida Keys Public Library, Flickr. A young Jean Otto, right, wearing the sailor's suit that will given to Robert the Doll. After Jean built Robert a home in the family's attic, the strangest things began to happen. Household items would move on their own. Jean would insist this was Robert's doing, and adults would laugh off his suggestion as just a child's overactive imagination. Years later, after studying fine arts in Chicago and New York, Jean attended the Sorbonne in Paris and met his wife, Anne. The couple returned to Jean's home in Key West, where Robert was permanently situated on a chair that faced out of an upstairs window. A plumber once swore he heard a child's laugh coming from inside the house, though nobody was home. He then noticed that Robert had moved from one side of the room to the other. He also claimed toys that had been in the doll's lap somehow ended up on the floor halfway across the room. After Jean died in 1974, a woman named Myrtle Reuter bought the house, Robert the doll included. She lived with him for decades, and confirmed he'd move around independently, with no explanation. Ultimately, fed up with his haunted ness, she donated him to the Fort East Martello Museum. Soon after settling into his new home of the museum's storage room, the place received countless letters begging for Robert's forgiveness. People came in droves to see the pockmarked toy. All that attention, even though the museum didn't make a single announcement about the doll's whereabouts. The museum reneged on keeping him out of sight, and finally put Robert on display, behind safety glass. To this day, after more than a century, inexplicable happenings surround the mysterious doll. Many people have tried to take a picture of him, only to find that their cameras suddenly don't work. Sarah Winchester, maiden name Party, is a woman that has become defined by the great tragedies in her life. She married her husband William Wirt Winchester, the only son of Oliver Winchester, the owner of the Winchester Repeating Arms Company. The Winchester names, before supernatural happened, were associated with the Wild West and the Civil War. The Winchester Model 1873 rifle is commonly referred to as the gun that won the West in American folklore. On the flip side, however, the Winchester weapons were used to a horrifically devastating effect during the Civil War. Tragedy would befall Sarah and William when their daughter and only child, Annie Party Winchester, died as an infant from marasmus on July 25, 1866, only a little over a month after her birth. Sarah's father-in-law Oliver would die in 1880 and William passed from tuberculosis in March 1881. Following the death of her husband, Sarah inherited a vast fortune of $20 million, equivalent to $529,862,069 in 2019. She also held 50% ownership in the Winchester Company and received $1,000 per day, equivalent to $26,493 in 2019. Sarah was an insanely wealthy woman, though the tragedies apparently changed her. Here's how people hear the story of Sarah Winchester. While living in Boston, she went to a psychic, as spiritualism was big at the time, and asked why these tragedies befell her family. The psychic said that the spirits of those killed by the Winchester weapons were angry at the family and cursed them. In order to appease these spirits, Sarah had to move out west and build a house for them to live. She had to keep building the house or she too would befall the anger of the spirits. The good spirits, the ones who wished to help her, would tell her how to build the house to protect herself. So Sarah did just that. Even so, the ranch was worked on routinely from when Sarah bought the property in 1884 to her death in 1922. While the rumors are that the work was continuous, it wasn't, as a biographer of Sarah Winchester found that Sarah would dismiss workers for a spell so that she and they may rest. The house is wild. It's been open to the public since 1923, but in 2016 a brand new room was found in the house. Ghosts of Winchester still roam the halls of the house. Sarah would host spiritualist sessions and attempt to communicate with the dead. Anyone who has ever messed around with an Ouija board or attempted to contact the dead knows, this can leave spiritual doorways open for the other side to cross over. Visitors and employees have claimed spectral and ghostly encounters over the many years of the Winchester Mystery House's existence. From the official website for the Winchester, they confirmed the ghosts of Clyde, who is a mustached man sometimes seen pushing a wheelbarrow in the basement, or trying to repair the fireplace in the ballroom. Others claim to have seen Sarah Winchester herself as she walks the halls of her home or appears in her bedroom to visitors. Guests and staff have also reported clothing being tugged, feeling someone behind them, hearing footsteps when they were alone in the building, and the spectral sound of builders at work. Thanks for watching this video, and don't forget to like and subscribe. Are You Afraid TV? Best channel with horror videos.